Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to be changing the subject of the formula, which is sometimes known as rearranging the formula. So let's look at an example. So we've got y equals 5x plus 3. So before we go about changing the subject of this formula, what actually is the subject? So the subject of this formula is y. This is because y is on its own on one side of the equals. So let's say we've got 9x add 4t plus 5 equals z. Then z will be the subject of this formula because it's on its own on one side of the equal sign. So now let's get to rearranging. So let's say we've got the example y equals x plus 7. And the question asks you to make x the new subject of this formula. So what we're going to do, we want x on its own. So we've got to minus 7. And why do we minus 7? Well, we're going to minus 7 because since we've got plus 7, we've got to do the inverse of plus 7 to get x on its own. So the inverse of plus is minus. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So you've got minus 7 on one side and then minus 7 on the other. So we've got y minus 7 equals x. So, fantastic. We've now changed the subject of this initial equation. So now we've got x as the new subject. So let's say we've got another example. Let's say we've got x equals 6j. And the question wants you to make j the new subject of the formula. So you want j on its own. So currently you've got 6 times j because there's an invisible multiplication sign between the 6 and the j. So since we're timesing by 6, the inverse of times is divide. So now we've got to divide by 6. So we're going to divide 6j by 6. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So now you've got x divided by 6 equals j. And now you have rearranged the subject of this formula. So let's say we've got a different example. Let's say we've got y equals 4x minus 8. So we want to add 8 to both sides because we currently have minus 8 and the inverse of minus is add. So we're going to add 8 to both sides. So we've got y plus 8 equals 4x. So now, since we've got 4x, we have to divide by 4 because we've got 4 times x here. That's because there's a multiplication sign between the 4 and the x. So we're going to divide by 4 on this side, divide by 4 on the other side. So we've got y add 8 divided by 4 equals x. So now we have changed the subject of this formula. Here we've got the example m equals 4n plus 6t. And the question wants us to make n the new subject of this formula. So how are we going to do this? So we've got plus 6t, and since we're inversing, we've got a minus 6t because the inverse of plus is minus, so minus 6t. Got to, what you do to one side, do to the other, so minus 6t. So we've got m minus 6t equals 4n. So we've got 4 times n, so we now got to do the inverse of timesing, which is divide. So we're going to divide by 4, divide by 4, and now we've got m minus 6t divided by 4 equals n. So let's say the question asks you to make t the subject of this formula. So you've got m equals 4n, add 6t. And now they're like t, make this the subject of the formula. So what we have to do is minus 4n from this side and minus 4n from this side. We're minusing 4n because this is positive 4n. So since we've got add, you can put a little add there. We now need to minus. So we've got minus 4n minus 4n. So now we've got m minus 4n equals 6t. So we've got 6t, 6 times t, we want to divide by 6 to get t on its own. So divide by 6, divide by 6. So now we've got m minus 4n divided by 6 equals t. Fantastic. So let's say we have an example and it's a equals 3c minus 4. And they say make c the new subject of this formula. So what we need to do is add 4 to both sides because we've got minus 4, so we're just doing the inverse. So we've got a plus 4 equals 3c. And then we want c on its own. So we've got to divide by 3 on both sides. So we've got a plus 4 divided by 3 equals c. And that is the answer. So let's say we've got another example that says make z the subject of the formula. So we've got m equals 3n plus 2z. And we want to make z the subject of this formula. So what we need to do is, because we've got a positive 3n there, we've got a minus 3n. So we've got m minus 3n equals 2z. Now we want to divide by 2 on both sides. So we've got m minus 3n divided by 2 equals z. And that's your answer. So let's say we've got question number 7. So we've got f equals 3c minus 4. So let's say we want to make c the subject of this formula. So if you want to pause the video and have a go at it before you move on, feel free. So we're going to add 4 to both sides, So we've got f add 4 equals 3c. So we need c on its own. So we've got 3 times c currently, so we're going to divide by 3. So we've got f add 4 divided by 3 equals c. Fantastic. So we have now made c the new subject of this formula. So let's say for question 8, we've got u equals 7j add 20. And the question asks you to make j the subject of this formula. So what you need to do is we've got plus 20, so we need to minus 20. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. So it's u minus 20 equals 7j. So we want j on its own. We've currently got 7 times j. So we've got to divide by 7 on this side and divide by 7 on this side. So we've got u minus 20 divided by 7 equals j. And that's your answer. So let's say we've got another example. We've got v equals q add 5t. And we've got to make t the subject of this formula. So how are we going to go about this? So we want t on its own, so we've got to minus q from both sides. This is positive q, so we're minusing it. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. So we've got v minus q equals 5t. So you want t on its own, so you've got to divide by 5 on both sides. Since you're timesing by 5, you've got to do the inverse, which is divide by 5. Divide by 5 on this side. So we've got v minus q divided by 5. And that equals t. And that is the subject. The new subject is t. So for the last example, we're going to have x equals 3y add 2. So we want to make y on its own. We want to make this y the subject of this formula. So what you need to do is minus 2 on both sides. So we've got x minus 2 equals 3y. And we want y on its own. So since we're timesing by 3, to do the inverse, we must divide by 3. So divide by 3 divided by 3. So we've got x minus 2 divided by 3 equals y. And that's your answer. I hope this video was useful in some way. Comment down below if you have any questions. And yes, thanks for watching. Bye.